What's up, guys? Soko mining in the building. We got our 2 gigahashes of Ethereum mining pulled up. Um, so it's been solid mining Ethereum, but as you know, we got proof of stake around the corner potentially. Hopefully, it gets dragged out longer. But with that in mind, took some time to look into some Bitcoin miners, especially S19j Pro. Looks very solid. Also, the S19 XP. The thing with the XP is that it's not going to be released till July, August. You have to pre-order, and you also don't know for sure if that's going to ship on time, all that. So we're focusing specifically on the S19j Pro, 104 terahash. I got Miner Bros, Crypto Miner Bros pulled up. They seem to have really good reviews. They're trusted. They sponsor a lot of crypto YouTubers. So I would go with them. I wouldn't really bother with trying to get a cheaper price unless you have a trusted vendor. And yeah, so I'm using this price, using the terahashes here, and the current market conditions. I have that all in here. $45,000 Bitcoin, even though we're at 47. I'm just putting 45 for the calculations, keeping everything pretty normal. The electric cost I have at 10 cents, which might be either higher or lower than what you got. I'm assuming that you're hosting the miner, which ends up a lot of the hosting places are like $2.20 per S19j, which is about 10 cents. And I also threw in 5% in fees. So you're only going to have like 1 or 2% in fees, pool fees, and miner fees. But I put 5% just to cover any downtime from when you buy the miner to when you deploy it. And then if the hosting place has a problem, or if your internet has a problem or anything like that, I think it's good to leave a cushion and make sure that you have that covered. When we look at it here, what to mine, we get some numbers here. Break even, 680 days, about 2 years. Not bad, but you have to consider also, this is not including the value of the miner after purchase, which is always going to have some value, some resale value. There's old miners, especially when the markets are good. You even have like the Antminer S17 selling for a lot of money. You know, $4,000 for a pre-owned S17. This thing only does 58 terahashes. It's not S17 Pro, 58 terahashes, and it's still going for a really good amount. So you have to consider that in your calculations. So it's actually, 680 days to break even is really good, considering that you still have the miner value. So what I did though is I accounted for difficulty. So I made this little sheet here. And what we're looking at, we're going to stick with, let's look at this here first. So this is at 45,000 Bitcoin price. We're comparing buying the miner and mining versus just holding Bitcoin. So first and foremost, what you gotta notice is that the difficulty of mining Bitcoin is always increasing. So I accounted for that. For the most part, Bitcoin difficulty usually goes up. It's like people estimate 40 to 60% for this year, and in the past it's been a similar trend. Earlier on, it was I'm sorting by years here by skipping to March. Earlier on, the difficulty would double, but now there's just so many machines out that it's not really fathomable for it to just double in a year. So it's going from 21 to 27 here, for example. It's not going to double from 27 to 50. That would be just an insane amount of ASICs getting put online. So I'm going to stick with 60% for the difficulty increase, which is actually like a higher bound on the estimates coming from a lot of miners, especially like public mining companies that do a lot of research on this stuff. 60% is like the higher estimate. So we're kind of overshooting everything against us, and it still ends up looking like a pretty good investment, in my opinion, to buy a Bitcoin ASIC right now. So the first 6 months, we're using the current difficulty. The next 6 months, we're using 30% higher difficulty. And the 6 months after that, we're at 60% increase to account for, a year's change in difficulty. And then the final monthly profit here would be 90% increased difficulty compared to today. And you still get the estimates here. And I calculated all one by one on whattomine here by changing the difficulty here and changing the Bitcoin prices here for different prices, as you'll see. So if we look at 45,000 Bitcoin, so Bitcoin staying the same, in 6 months, you will make 2,370 about after your electric cost, assuming 10 cents a kilowatt hour. This is a monthly profit. This is the total in 6 months. And then the value of the miner. So I consider that you could still sell that miner for 5,500, which is a pretty realistic number. It probably will be even better than that, the resell on it. Especially when you have it in hand and working. It's not too hard to sell them. And then the next 6 months, so your return is negative. The next 6 months, you basically are up $400 when you consider the value of the miner still possessing it. So in 1 year, you're already in the profit. And then this is a big number to look at right here. This is what you'll be making a month in basically passive income, since you've already, secured your investment. You still have the miner, which is risk, and you still might be holding Bitcoin, which is risk. This is all considering you're holding all your Bitcoin too. Actually, you're selling enough to pay the electric, and you're holding the rest. So it actually is a pretty balanced estimate. It's not even completely hodl. And it also doesn't account for if you were to compound the miners, keep buying miners as you're profiting. So really looking like a good investment to me. I'm definitely considering switching from Ethereum to Bitcoin miners for future investments. I'm going to keep my 2 gigahash, ride it out on the Ethereum, but we'll see in the future. And basically, after 18 months, a year and a half, you will be profiting 1,389 when you consider the value of the miner as well. And you also have $75 a month in income. Now, this isn't a great scenario. We want Bitcoin to be higher than 45,000. And if you were to bet against Bitcoin, and for Bitcoin being lower than 45,000 in 18 months, or being even the same as 45,000 in 18 months, it's kind of it's not a great bet. It's been an appreciating asset. You never know what happens, but it wouldn't be a great bet to make, because it has been an appreciating asset, and you don't want to fight that trend. So if it were to go up to 65,000, you see the numbers here, a lot better across the board. We're looking at, in 1 year's time, you're already profiting $6,805. Sorry, that's the total accumulated. When you combine that with the value of the miner, you get your return here. You get the total here with equity, and the return is $4,300. This is similar to just holding Bitcoin if it appreciated this much. The difference is here you don't have any income. You just have your initial 4,000 profit, whereas here you have 4,000 of profit secured, and you have $330 a month. That's going to keep flowing in. After 18 months, you see the numbers here. And here's a 2x in Bitcoin price. So 2x in Bitcoin price, similar story. You would have made similar amount just holding Bitcoin, but you have $500 a month here of passive income. That's off of one $9,000 machine in a year's time. If you had a couple of these, this could be like a monthly wage for a decent job. This is an 18-month return. At this point, you're up 12,000 in just profit, not including the equity, and you have a good amount of monthly profit. Of course, there could be a downside, and I've included here the downsides. So if it goes down to 35,000, I mean, ideally you want to ride this out. If Bitcoin's in a bear market in the next year and a half after all this, you would be down 1,600 on your total investment, including the equity, which I've lowered the price of the equity here because the equity would be worth less. If the miner's not producing as much, the equity is obviously going to be worth less. So accounting for all that, even like a worst case scenario where we have $25,000 Bitcoin, of course it could go lower than that, but you don't really need projections at that point. You're just screwed. But at 25,000 Bitcoin, you are down about 4,500 total. So, you took a long shot, you put in 9,000 for the machine, you end up losing 4,500. You still have some money in the bank once you sell the machine, and you had a lot of upside exposure. So it's really looking like a good, idea for me to get my hands on some of these S19j Pros. There's also the XP, but the XP is, first of all, it's not coming out till July, August, and second of all, there's three things actually. Second of all, it would be you're missing out on months of mining, which is really precious. You're talking 5 months of mining. Initially, you're going to be making $400 a month profit after electric. That's $2,000 that you could be missing out on. And then on top of that too, the price of the S19 XP is pretty high, super high. Like most places are $14,000 for it, $15,000, and that's for a pre-order. Once they're in hand, who knows? They might be even more. And also, they're more efficient and they'll last longer. But I think S19j Pro is just really good bang for buck, especially being in hand, being able to run it. If you get a good electric rate, good hosting rate, it's really nice to just go all in and do it. Might consider running everything myself if we end up acquiring a bunch of units. Or we might just go with the hosting route, try to find a good hosting provider. Right now I'm looking at Print Crypto. They look pretty good. They have available spots. Not so sure how trustworthy they are, but they got a good setup going. They're selling it for pretty cheap, but you do have to pay sales tax, which is interesting, even though you're buying out of state from where they're selling from. So I wonder if you can get that knocked off. But they charge $224 a month, which comes out to just about the same as the estimates here for the monthly. And also I'm looking at OnWatt, which is my current hosting provider, where I have my my GPU miners, my 2 gigahash, 8 workers. They've been hosting it, been really solid there. Not a lot of downtime. But they're also changing facilities, so it's something to consider. It is nice to have the miners in hand and running them yourself, so you don't have to deal with any kind of hiccups like that. All right, guys, made it this far. Wonder if you guys want to get into Bitcoin mining. Drop a comment or something. If what you think about it, what you think about ETH switching to proof of stake, what you think about Bitcoin miners, if this is a good investment, all that. Personally, it's looking very likely that Soko mining is going to get some exposure to Bitcoin miners once again, since we haven't mined Bitcoin since 2017. Had a bunch of S9s back then. Wish we held out, but we ended up not mining with them for long. And we're going to come back with the S19j Pros and get that hash rate up. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in this far. I'm going to drop a link to the spreadsheet if anyone wants to check it out in the description. And just comment anything you need, anything you have questions about, or any, whatever your input is for all this. Peace.